Hello, my fellow horror film fans. I'm Mike C. Welcome back into the Chrono Cabin. It's really hard to believe that 2022 is almost a ghost. No pun intended. But yeah, this year has gone by super fast. You know, I feel like I say that every year to some degree that, yeah, this year, wow, it flew by. But I feel like this year in particular, 2022, just was exceptionally fast. But maybe that's just me, although I know a lot of people have said the same thing. Leave in the comments if you felt like this year got away from you or if it was particularly so for you. Be it that this is most likely my last video 2022, I thought I would just share with you some of my favorite horror content that came out this year. I've broken the video up into two sections. The first section are my top 3 horror series, as well as some runners-up that came out this year. And the second section is my top 3 horror movies that came out this year, along with some runners-up. Stick around to the end because I do have a special category that I added, and that is Best Horror Twist. So, however you want to watch this video, you can skip to the movies, or you can watch the whole thing. Why don't you watch the whole thing? It helps my channel out, huh? So there was actually a lot of great horror series that came out this year. My number 1 pick was All of Us Are Dead. This came out early 2022 on Netflix. Inside Lee Byung-chan's science lab, a student incurs a seemingly harmless bite. Shortly after, a fast-spreading outbreak soaks the school in blood. And there's a lot of blood in this series. You know how astrologers talk about cycles? I'm not really into astrology myself, but they talk about cycles. I feel like we've been on a cycle of zombies for some years now. I mean, yeah, they've thrown in some vampires here, maybe even a werewolf there, but it feels like we really have been locked in on zombies. And I will tell you, South Korea has this genre nailed. In fact, they have the horror genre nailed. I've said this many times before. This is a great zombie series in the typical South Korean style. If you liked the action of Train to Busan, and if you like the deep dive into the actual characters and the relationships they developed in the movie Alive, this is a really nice mix of the two. In fact, one of the characters actually references Train to Busan in this series. I will say this is actually a really high-octane action series. I mean, it is full force, full throttle, and you actually kind of look forward to the downtime, or at least I did. But they dealt with some cool things in this series, like the way they had the zombies sort of evolving. I thought it was rather unique. I don't think I've seen anything like that before. And they also dealt with some kind of practical issues, like where do you go to the bathroom if you're all locked in a room? And I mean, it's pretty funny how they actually explored this. And there's a little bit of comedy involved as well. Besides being action-packed, it really does explore a lot of the relationships and the strong bonds that get built between these students that are trying to survive this apocalypse. This is a young cast. All the acting is really good. They really sell the roles. They really make you either hate them or love them. And it is a true survival horror, zombie-packed action adventure. The majority of this actually takes place at the school. They're actually trying to get out of the school, and they're trying to get up to this hill and get to some safety. And as you know, these zombies, they are very aggressive. Overall, I had a really fun ride with this one. It takes you through a range of emotions, really keeps you on the edge of your seat. And I'm mentioning this one in particular because Netflix has signed on for a season 2. And I'm glad they're gonna do it because it did leave on a good ending, but I definitely want to see more, and thankfully we are getting it. So you have the promise of a second season coming. They may wrap it up in the second season, who knows, but it was popular enough, it got good enough numbers to where they're bringing it back. So let's move on to pick number 2, Archive 81. This is a Netflix series that came out in early 2022. Haunted by a family tragedy, Dan begins to restore videotapes for a cryptic film. Then he's startled to learn of his connection to their missing creator. This is a limited run series. Unfortunately, they did not sign on for season 2. I still think it's really worth the watch. It has a good ending, in my opinion. The ending kind of reminded me of a Twilight Zone type ending, so I was fine with the ending. So even though they're not going to do a season 2, I still think you'll get a lot out of this. There's kind of an Eyes Wide Shut feel to this, as well as Rosemary's Baby. And it all kind of coalesces in this really cool series that kind of takes place between 2 different time periods. I like how they go back to the 90s and they show 90s New York. They did a really, really good job differentiating the time periods. The acting across the board in this was fantastic. And this was one of those, I'll call page turners, even though it's not a book, but it's one of those where I was waiting and waiting to see the next episode because I really wanted to figure out what was going on. So I do say this, even though they don't have a second season coming, they do explain everything. So you're not going to be left with a lot of unanswered questions. Check it out, Archive 81. It was really on the top of my list this year. It was a cool concept. There's a lot of isolation involved in this because the character of Dan, he has to go to this kind of weird compound where he's locked away and it's a top secret job, and that's when all the weird stuff starts happening, and of course the isolation starts getting to him. There was a creeping edginess to this, there was a darkness to this, and it was just played out so well. This series really does kind of keep you guessing, but I feel like it earns the reveals very well. By the way, before I forget, I did a longer commentary on Archive 81 back when I did one of my weekend watch and plays, so you could check that out if you just want a more detailed explanation. Now, number 3. Yeah, dare I say, Stranger Things Season 4. I know this show did not start in 2022, but honestly, I felt like the best season was Season 4, which came out in 2022. Came out in 2 parts on Netflix, but you can watch it all. I'm sure most of you who are fans of Stranger Things or fans of the horror genre have probably already watched Stranger Things, so I don't think I need to get into too much detail, but Season 4 I felt was great. There is going to be a Season 5, and it's going to be a lot shorter than Season 4, but they're going to wrap up the series, so I always recommend Stranger Things. I mean, if you love the 80s and you love horror content, I think you'll have a fun ride with this. Stranger Things has great characters, but some of these characters I think really just shined in Season 4. There was some really great moments. There was some great music history moments made in Season 4 that you just have to see, and they really added to the just emotion of Stranger Things. Stranger Things to me just takes me back to the 80s. I was an 80s kid. Growing up in the 80s was so much different than living now. Don't get me wrong, I love all the technology that we have now, but there was something about going to a mom and pop video store and like looking through the horror category. But there was just something fun and slower paced about that era that it's hard to put into words. If some of you are younger and didn't experience the 80s, none of this will make any sense. And Stranger Things probably won't make much sense to you either, because Stranger Things, it does build a lot on that 80s nostalgia. So I thought Season 4 was just so well done. They had so many great moments in Season 4 that it was worth mentioning in this video because it really was one of my top picks this year. So now I want to do a couple runners-up. So my first runner-up is the Apple TV series Servant by M. Night Shyamalan. Now I know what you're saying, Servant came out in 2019, so why am I talking about it? But it's actually ongoing, and Season 3, which I think is the best season yet, came out in early 2022, and if you watch it now, you're in luck because Season 4, which I think is going to be the final season, is coming out early January 2023, so you have less than a month to check out the ending of this great series. In case you haven't watched it, let me give you a quick synopsis. A Philadelphia couple is in mourning after an unspeakable tragedy creates a rift in their marriage and opens up the door for a mysterious force to enter their home. This is another one that I talked about more at length in one of my weekend watch and play videos. I'll link to that right there in case you want a longer explanation, but the acting is great. It stars Rupert Grint, who's absolutely fantastic in this. It's almost like you don't even recognize him from anything. He plays a real just curmudgeon that's addicted to drugs and alcohol, and he just has a tortured time in this, and he plays the part so well. Rupert Grint is a great actor. Everyone is great in this. The whole cast, absolutely wonderful. Now, I know it's funny I'm talking about this, but I'm telling you, the less you know about it going in, the better. And that's because when I watched episode 1, season 1, it was kind of a shocking start to the series. I had no idea where they were going to go with this. It was just a really like, wow, what moment? That kind of thing. Again, I love location. I like the Philadelphia backdrop. I think they film it really well. The night scenes in particular are really, really nice. They just pop in this. And very dark, strange series. There's not really any jump scares per se, but there's definitely a supernatural element to this. And if you like M. Night Shyamalan, some of his earlier works, I think you'll like this. I know M. Night Shyamalan has had kind of a rough patch of movies, but I honestly think he makes it up in this series. I'm a big M. Night Shyamalan fan. I'm always pushing for him. One of my favorite movies that he did was Signs. I know I've talked about that movie before, but I've liked a lot of his movies. I haven't liked some of his movies, but I always keep pushing for him because I think he's extremely talented and he's a very good writer. And I think in Servant, all of this is just colliding, and it's just a great show. I think it's kind of a almost comeback for M. Night Shyamalan. Not that he really left, but I'm just saying it's one of those that's like, wow, yeah, this is M. Night Shyamalan. This is good writing, and it's thoroughly enjoyable. I am very excited for January 2023 when the last season comes out, because I think they're going to wrap it up, and I'm really interested to see what they're going to do with it. Next runner-up is Guillermo del Toro's Cabinet of Curiosities. This released towards the end of 2022, right around Halloween, on Netflix, and it is an anthology of sinister stories told by different creators. That's what I liked about it the most. There was a different director for every episode. It was all produced and put together by Guillermo del Toro, who I'm a huge fan of, and I thought it was really good. Speaking of Rupert Grint, he is in one of the episodes in this, and I really liked him. Each episode is its own episode, so you can skip around episodes if you want. My favorite episodes, stylistically, I think, were episodes 1, 2, and 3. They did a great 70s type episode with Steve Agee, who I'm a big fan of, and that was episode 7. I like that one. Honestly, I think there's something for everybody in here. I didn't like every one of them, but the majority of them I really enjoyed. Some of them had kind of a dark fantasy look. All right, runner-up number 4 is Feria, The Darkest Light. This is a Spanish Netflix series that came out in early 2022. Two sisters see their world turned upside down when they discover a horrifying and otherworldly secret involving their parents. Yeah, this was a great series in my opinion. I really enjoyed it, especially if you like content that deals with the occult. You'll probably like this series. I don't think they're doing a season 2, so I'm just warning you, but it does have an ending that I did think was satisfactory, even though I'd like to see them maybe do another series. I don't think they need to. I think the ending kind of just bookended it pretty well. You may or may not agree with me on it, but it's definitely worth a watch if you haven't seen it. You know, I'm all about locations, and you can't go wrong with the location here. It's a picturesque spot in Spain, a small town. It actually looks like they had real townspeople as extras just walking around, and kind of added to the realism. But I definitely recommend it. The acting is really good. It's kind of a compelling story. It shifts between time periods a little bit just to kind of explain some backstory. So everything does get explained in this. That's why I'm happy to recommend it, because even though they might not do a season 2, I doubt there's any plans to, but you won't be left, you know, like, oh, why did that happen, or why did this happen? It explains things really well. And I did talk about it a little more at length in one of my weekend watch and plays. I'll link to it right there in case you want to check out that more in detail. But if you haven't seen Feria, The Darkest Light, it's a great Spanish horror series. I think Spain is doing some great stuff when it comes to the horror genre. Seen a lot of interesting things come out of there. All right, so let's move on to my top 3 horror movies of 2022. I'll start out with Smile. This actually had a theatrical release, but it is now out on Paramount Plus. So if you have Paramount Plus, you can watch this. After witnessing a bizarre, traumatic incident involving a patient, Dr. Rose Cotter starts explaining frightening occurrences that she can't explain. As an overwhelming terror begins taking over her life, Rose must confront her troubling past in order to survive and escape her horrifying new reality. I will tell you that I thought this was the creepiest movie I have seen in 2022. In fact, let's do a creepy factor. On a scale of 1 to 5, what say the Chrono Cabin algorithm on this one? Yeah, creepy factor of 4. There are some great jump scares in this. At one point, I actually jumped out of my seat. In fact, my shoe flew off. I mean, it's creepy, and it earns those jump scares. It's not jump scares all the way through, but the jump scares that they do are unexpected, and I'm telling you, you just don't anticipate them. They surprise you. They did an excellent job. They earned those jump scares. It was fantastic, but there was also just this creepy aspect to it. The concept of this movie reminded me of 2 different movies. The first one being It Follows, which I like very much. So if you did like It Follows, you will probably like this movie. Same kind of concept, but I think it was done in a different way. It's unique enough to where it's not really copying It Follows. In fact, it's actually closer to a movie that Denzel Washington did back in 1998. It was a movie called Fallen. I don't know if you've ever seen that movie, but it's actually pretty good. That movie kind of reminded me of Shocker in a way. Old Wes Craven movie. But if you ever saw Fallen and you like Fallen, you'll probably like this movie as well. Smile, it doesn't copy either of these movies in any way. It's the same concept, but I think they added their own kind of twist to it. The smiles are just creepy. It's like if someone's smiling at you. You know, I mean, it's creepy, and it's not the way I did it. I mean, it's actually really creepy the way these actors did it. But it's just a weird concept, and you know what I liked about it the most is that it deals with this woman who is actually a psychiatrist, and she's actually trying to help people, but her own mind is just deconstructing. There are some horrible moments in this where you're just like, you just don't want to see it happen. It's uncomfortable. But you're literally watching the mind of a psychiatrist unravel. Really, really well done. This one was in the theaters for a time, and I think it got pretty decent reviews. It wasn't talked about as much as, say, a movie like Terrifier 2, which totally caught word of mouth, and the movie just did really well in the box office. And it didn't do as well as, say, Barbarian, which is another movie that did really well in the theater because it gained word of mouth. But Smile, I think, was kind of under the radar more. I didn't hear people talking about this movie as much. This one, though, I really, really enjoyed. I highly recommend it. Do not be holding a drink or anything near electronics when you're watching this movie, because I guarantee you will jump out of your seat at certain moments, and you just don't want a huge mess. All right, so number 2, Virus 32. This is a Shudder original that came out somewhere around mid-2022. A virus breaks out and a chilling massacre rages through the streets of Montevideo. The sick become hunters and only calm their fever by unscrupulously killing all those not yet infected. Unaware of this, Iris and her daughter spend the day in the sports club where Iris works as a security guard. When the night comes, a fight without mercy is about to begin. Their only hope of salvation arrives when they discover that after each attack, the infected seem to have 32 seconds apiece before charging again. See, that was actually the cool part of this. So that's why they call it Virus 32. Because there's a 32-second window where after an infected zombie, we'll call this a zombie movie, again, cycle of zombies, but after that zombie attacks someone, they become comatose for 32 seconds. So you see how this can kind of really play well into this plot, and it's kind of a edge of your seat type thing. I really enjoyed this. I didn't hear a lot of people talking about it, but they did some interesting things. I'll say perhaps a pregnant zombie giving birth. That was kind of interesting, and that doesn't spoil anything, but I highly recommend watching this. Again, it's a real survival type horror movie, and it's about this woman and her daughter just trying to survive, and this is a very dark and at times creepy movie. It takes place all in one location, but I didn't find any location type fatigue with it. I actually enjoyed it. They kept moving around throughout all the different corridors and stuff to where it still kept exciting. You can really do well by filming something in one place as long as you make it interesting, and they definitely did. They made it interesting with the characters. Highly recommend watching this one. Number 3 is X. Yes, X came out mid 2022. It had a nice theatrical release, and it's currently on Showtime. A group of actors sets out to make an adult film in rural Texas under the noses of their reclusive hosts. But when the elderly couple catches their young guests in the act, the cast finds themselves in a desperate fight for their lives. There is a little bit of a touch of Texas Chainsaw Massacre in here, just by the way they shot a couple things. I think they kind of reference Texas Chainsaw Massacre a little bit. But overall, I really liked it. And I really like Jenna Ortega. I think she's great. I think she's really starting to blow up, especially with the Netflix series Wednesday. I haven't watched it yet, but I hear she's really fantastic. The whole cast in this is great. Yeah, it's just a great way to do a slasher. I kind of like the time period. I like the backdrop of the Texas landscape, kind of the barren desert and wastelands, and you're just kind of out in the middle of nowhere. And there's a crocodile in this one. I mean, there's not a lot not to like about this movie, at least in my opinion. And of course, you have the movie Pearl, which is supposed to be a prequel to X. And I had a feeling they were going to do something like that due to one of the backstories. I have not yet seen Pearl yet, but I highly recommend that you watch X first, then watch the prequel Pearl. So I'm going to be watching that at some point. Again, X is one that got a lot of just word of mouth from its theatrical release, but it's been kind of jumping around, but currently it is on Showtime, so you can watch it on Showtime until it moves to another streaming platform. But I think you have until 2023 and you'll be able to see it there. Runner-ups: Deadstream, Shudder original, came out right before Halloween 2022. I have done a whole video on Deadstream. I really love this movie. If you want a more detailed video on it, just watch that. But I will just tell you, I really love the unique freshness of this movie. A disgraced internet personality tries to win back his followers by live streaming himself at an abandoned haunted house. When he accidentally unleashes a vengeful spirit, his comeback becomes a fight for his life. This is a movie with a lot of great jump scares, and they're all well earned. I think this would have been a lot of fun to watch in a theater with a crowd of people, but I watched this on Shudder. I don't think it had a theatrical release. I might be wrong on that. There was a definite feeling of Sam Raimi's Evil Dead and Evil Dead 2 in this movie. I think if you watch it, you'll kind of see the almost call-outs to Evil Dead, but just there's the spirit of Evil Dead in this movie. And if you like Evil Dead 2, you're gonna love this movie. I usually get a little tired of found footage type stuff or even live stream type horror, but in this one is just so great. I laughed so hard through this movie. This really is a dark comedy, and it really airs on the comedy side, and everyone is so great in this movie. The lead actor just plays the perfect annoying YouTuber. Hopefully you don't find me annoying, but yeah, just great. Just absolutely great. Check out Deadstream if you have not seen it. All right, next runner-up is Moloch. This is a Shudder exclusive that came out, I can't remember exactly when, in 2022. I did like it though. Moloch tells the story of Beatrice, who lives a quiet life with her family at the edge of a peat bog. When they are attacked by a random stranger one night, Beatrice sets out to find an explanation, but the deeper she digs, the more she becomes convinced something ancient is after her and her loved ones. This one has a little bit of a folklore aspect to it. It's almost a little bit of a fantasy vibe at times, although I might be stretching it with fantasy vibe. But it also has this kind of concept of a cursed family bloodline. So if you like movies that kind of involve all those things, I think you might enjoy it. I really like the setting in this movie. It was a very beautiful location, but at times it was very dark, kind of sinister. So sometimes I like folklore stories, sometimes I don't. This one definitely captured me because I was really interested in that background, and they explain the background quite well. It does get a little weird at times. It's a little cerebral, and it is a bit of a slow burn, so I'll warn you on that one, but this one kind of captured my attention. I definitely think it's worth a watch. Next runner-up is The Privilege 2022. This is a Netflix film. A wealthy teen and his friends attending an elite private school uncover a dark conspiracy while looking into a series of strange supernatural events. So this is a horror movie that came out of Germany, and it reminds me so much of Halloween 3 Season of the Witch. If you see the two movies, you'll probably know what I mean, but actually it was a pretty Interesting story. It kind of kept me guessing all the way through. I actually liked where it was filmed. Production value was quite good. The acting was great. I liked the characters. Now, I actually really liked the twist, which I kind of saw coming, but at the same time, it still got me a little bit. I wouldn't say it was a gem in my mind, but it definitely made my runner-up list for this. It kept my attention enough, and I did kind of like the ending. You may not, who knows, but if you like the ending of Halloween 3 Season of the Witch, you'll probably like this ending. Definitely worth checking it out on Netflix. The next runner-up is The Cellar. This came out in 2022. Kiara Wood's daughter mysteriously vanishes in the cellar of their new house. She soon discovers there is an ancient and powerful entity controlling their home that she will have to face or risk losing her family's souls forever. Very dramatic. Yes. It was a good movie, though. I actually enjoyed it. The ending, you may not like, kind of reminded me of Krampus a little bit, but honestly, it was worth the watch. It was entertaining. There was some creepy elements to it. I did kind of like the aspect of the mystery behind what was going on in the cellar. Again, there's some good backstory in there. This was another one that was kind of a slow burn, even though the disappearance happens pretty early on. I liked it because it kind of kept me guessing for a while. It was all kind of in one location, but I didn't mind it. It didn't get old to me. My next runner-up is Anna and the Apocalypse. This is a 2022 movie that actually just released on Shudder. And I will just say it's a musical about zombies. That's all you have to know about it. The reason I put this on my runner-up list is because I am actually not a fan of musicals. I'm not a fan of Broadway, although I appreciate the music and the work and the talent that goes into Broadway. It's just not my thing. Show tunes are not my thing. However, this movie, the music is not in a show tunes style. It's actually written in more of a modern pop style. And I have to say, the music is quite good. The songwriting is quite good. My day job is actually a musician, and I write a lot of music for television. So I always appreciate good music, but I actually did like the production quality of the tracks in this movie. And there was just something kind of comical about it, yet sad at the same time. Characters were, again, quite interesting, a little over the top, maybe, but of course, it's a musical with zombies, so it's over the top. Again, cycle of zombies, I'm telling you, lots of zombies. Maybe 2023 will have some vampires, or better yet, maybe a Mothman, or better yet, something else. Regardless, great movie, I enjoyed it. Might be fun if you're into something new, something kind of unexpected, a little outside of the box, in my opinion. My last runner-up, you may laugh at this, but it's actually Troll 2022. This is another Netflix movie that came out just recently. When an ancient troll is awakened in a Norwegian mountain, a ragtag group of heroes must come together to try and stop it from wreaking deadly havoc. Yeah, this was a great, I don't know if you want to call it a creature feature. It was really well done, though. It wasn't cheesy per se, although you kind of have to remember you're watching a movie at times. I think you'll know what I mean when you watch it. But actually, the troll looked really good, and I felt like it was filmed really well. Again, I really like seeing movies filmed in Norway. Beautiful place. If you can imagine yourself watching a movie with Godzilla and King Kong, maybe having the Jolly Green Giant come and mix it all up with a little Jurassic Park like he mixes soup, then I think this is what Troll would be. It was very entertaining. The Norwegians do a really good job with these troll movies. Trolls in the Norwegian or Scandinavian country are very popular myths. My wife, who was born in Denmark, lived there early on in her life until she moved to the United States when she was 8. Her favorite book was actually a book on trolls. Go figure. But anyway, this is a mean and scary troll. It has a nice backstory, though. The folklore is what's most interesting about this movie. Highly recommend it. And finally, we get to my last category, Best Horror Movie Twist of 2022. And the award goes to Glorious. This was a Shudder original that released late in 2022, and it's all about a guy that's down on his luck. He gets stuck in a very filthy rest stop with a voice. Yep. It's one of the weirdest movies I've seen in a while, and it had a very good twist at the end. I did an entire video on Glorious, so if you want to check that out in more detail, it's all spoiler free. Now, this is kind of an afterthought, but if I could have a runner-up, I would probably say that Orphan First Kill also had a pretty amazing twist. So Orphan First Kill, you know, came out in 2022, and it was the prequel to Orphan. Now, we already know the twist in Orphan, so I won't say it in case you haven't seen it, but you can watch both of these on Paramount Plus, and I highly recommend that you watch Orphan and then Orphan First Kill. But in Orphan First Kill, they added another layer of twist to the movie, and I thought it was actually pretty fun. But yeah, Glorious takes the prize for me. So all in all, I think 2022 is a great year for us horror fans. I mean, there was a lot of great content that came out this year, and I'm really excited to see what comes out in 2023. I know there's a lot planned, and it just seems to be growing each year, which is great for the horror community. Some of you might disagree with me. I've heard people say that 2022 is kind of light on horror content, but honestly, from my perspective at least, I think there was just a lot of stuff that came out. In fact, I have a back catalog of some movies that I still have to watch that I'm planning to watch into the new year, and I'm kind of excited to see if there's maybe another gem in there. But you tell me. I invite you to leave it in the comments. Was this a good year for horror for you? Did you enjoy a lot of the content that came out of this year? How much stuff did you actually see? Did you expect more? I'd be very curious to hear. I just want to give a big thanks to all of my subscribers, everybody that's watching. I want to give a special shout out to Ed. He always leaves me comments, and another special shout out to Daniel. Daniel, I really appreciate you subscribing to my channel. Thank you for the recommendations. It has been fun to chat with you about different movies here and there. I look forward to more recommendations from you. So just a big thanks to everyone out there. If you are celebrating Christmas, I wish you all a very Merry Christmas. If you are celebrating Hanukkah, I wish you a very happy Hanukkah. And if you're just celebrating the holidays in general, happy holidays to you all. And also a very happy new year. I am excited to see you all in 2023.